Welcome, everyone. This is the podcast where we talk about everything that matters. And today, what matters is mobility. We'll be going through the enterprise architecture of mobility as a service, and we'll be covering first the business architecture. Felisa is going to introduce us to what the business architecture is and the building blocks of it.
Yeah, that's right, HBK. So when we crafted this model, our main goal was to create an architecture that not only serves the present, but it also lays the foundation for the future, especially in South Africa's vibrant urban landscape.
Well, that seems complicated and very innovative. Could you explain how this model fits into the bigger picture of enterprise architecture?
Well, that's a very good question, Israel. Since we worked on this together as a group, I'll take the question. So this model serves as a strategic core, like the skeleton of a body. It ensures that every part, like the process, the people, the technology, everything works together in harmony. And it is designed to plug directly into the data and the technology architectures that we'll be talking about later on during the podcast.
And in terms of adaptability, how does the architecture ensure the system remains flexible and responsive to change?
Well, adaptability is baked into the very design, David. So what I mean by this is that each business capability is actually crafted to be modular. So this means as the technological landscape shifts, so does our architecture without requiring a complete overhaul.
So I'm genuinely intrigued about the partners and stakeholders you've roped into this model here. Could you please elaborate on how you went about cherry picking them and what role do they play into this business architecture?
Yeah, that's a very good question and very important aspect of the business architecture itself. The selection was very deliberate. We sought out partners and stakeholders that not only share our vision, but also bring essential pieces to the puzzle. So these are public transport authorities, tech providers, Uber drivers, for example, as a different hailing system. And all these integral parts, they create our own mobility as a service platform.
Okay, I just have a question. With such an emphasis on collaboration, how do you manage the complexity within the model to keep it user-centric?
Well, that's where our design principles actually come in. So we aim for simplicity on the surface with complexity under the hood. So that means that our users, for example, your commuters, your tourists, your occasional travelers, get a seamless experience, while the back end manages the intricacies of the data as well as services and the partnerships that we would have.
Oh wow, so that seems like a delicate balance to maintain.
Yeah, it does. It's absolutely. It requires continuous dialogue between the architects and the stakeholders themselves. And it's a dynamic process. But it's what makes this work so rewarding.
Before we wrap up, what's the main takeaway you'd like listeners to have about the business capability model?
It's more than just the structure. So it's a vision that is made to be tangible. It's designed with the understanding that business needs and technology are constantly evolving, especially in the diverse ecosystem of South Africa.
Great, and with that we are done with the first building block of our enterprise architecture, which is the business architecture. If you've got any question, you have our email and our student numbers, you can ask us. Moving on, we'll go to the data architecture. The data architecture was crafted and well designed by David and Faith with me here. So they'll be leading the conversation. Just to start, David, can you please tell us what the data architecture is about and how you started with this?
All right, thanks, HBK. Faith and I have been really hands-on with this, ensuring that the data architecture not only supports but enhances the platform's capabilities.
Basically, the goal is to make sure that the data serves a purpose, from enhancing the user experience to optimizing the operational back end itself.
Oh, great. Let's start with the heart of the matter, the data models. David, could you please shed some light on how these models are the foundation of the mass service?
Sure thing. We have designed these models to capture and structure all the necessary data. Take the user data model, for example. It's designed for personalization and security, while the trip data ensures logistic precision for every journey. It's crucial that these models are both robust and flexible.
And they feed directly into our data sources. For instance, we integrate with public transit agencies for ride schedules and updates, which are very important for our real-time data flow.
Okay, so so speaking about the flow, right? Let's talk about the flow chart detailing the user request process. Faith, you were instrumental in this. Can you maybe take us through it?
Sure. So basically, the flowchart depicts the user journey from setting up a trip to the ride management process. It's a step-by-step visualization on how each user decision leads to a series of data transactions, which ensures that the entire process is smooth and user-focused.
Okay, makes sense. So, okay, maybe I have a question for David now. So how would you say the data warehouse actually facilitates this whole journey?
Sure. The data warehouse is where everything comes together. We've got different repositories for users, payments, transportation, and service providers, all interacting seamlessly. This backend structure is what allows for such a fluid front-end experience.
Oh, okay.
Oh, really? So, the architecture needs to be really well coordinated. How do you keep everything working together smoothly?
Just to answer your question, it basically all comes down to constantly monitoring and tweaking. The architecture is living. It has to evolve with the data that it handles.
Okay, but are you sure that these repositories translate the real-world functionality for our users in South Africa? If yes, how?
All right. It's all about availability and reliability. Whether it's a commuter in Cape Town or a tourist in Johannesburg, the data needs to be accurate and timely, providing a service that's both efficient and intuitive.
I think that's the key, isn't it? That the data isn't just about the numbers, but it's actually a narrative that's unfolding in real time with every user's journey.
Yeah, and I like the way Kenan asked the question. It did not just ask what, but it also asked how, which was very important into the choice that we're making when building the data models and the whole data architecture. But we're done with this one. We're moving on to the technology architecture. We want to look at how detailed and how it was built to support the whole enterprise architecture in its role. So the technology architecture was built by Israel and Kenan. There will be the engineers and the people that research on the technology architecture, well, together with the whole team, right?
Yeah.
So yes, Israel and Kenan, please take us through. How does this technology architecture work, and why did you choose the way it is designed?
Okay, so Israel, do you want to start?
No, I think give it a chance.
Okay. Okay. Thanks for having us, HPK. This diagram is a step-by-step blueprint of how each part of our system interacts, from the user's click to the final outcome.
Yeah, do you want to add anything, Israel?
Yeah, let me just add some spice on it, need some salt in the kitchen. Okay, so it's about documenting the sequence of actions, choices, and interactions. That's why we chose a sequence diagram. It visually tells the story of our architecture.
Okay, it's actually interesting that you made that choice, but I want you to, or rather us to actually navigate through this diagram. So you began with the user interacting with the client app, right? Can you maybe walk us through it?
Sure thing. So once the user interacts with our React.js application, right, the request is sent straight to our API gateway. This is our first line of defense.
We are at war.
Imagine. So, and it's where the magic starts. We apply rates, limiting, and security checks before anything happens, just like in your house. I don't know what I'm saying, but
No, I'm sure you do know what you're saying.
I totally agree. Security is very vital. So, Kenan, could you please walk us through what happens once the request passes through the gateway?
Okay, so it reaches the microservices layer. Here is where the request is directed to the right service. We've picked microservices for their ability to scale and because they let us update parts of the system without shutting down or impacting other areas.
Yeah, that's actually a very, very important choice. And in fact, in case you want to improve one of the microservices, it's not going to affect the other ones the way they work. And let's go to the next phase of the architecture. Israel, can you please take us through?
All right, you know what? I wanted to start with just an intro, but we have already started. So, the AWS Lambda is our serverless compute service. It interacts with relational databases, object storage, and data warehouses. It's about efficiency and scalability, which is more important. Don't forget about that.
Yeah.
Making sure that we can handle the loads as it comes in.
Yeah, and for our data layer, we are leveraging it for high throughput and low latency interactions, making sure that the user experience is always smooth.
Okay.
Now there's a distinct path leading to security layer, DevOps tools and more. Why is it sequenced in this manner?
You know the reason why? I don't know if you paid attention, but yeah, let me take you through it. We need to illustrate the critical sequence of interactions and the dependencies between each component. Now, it's not just about having these tools, but how and when they are invoked in the process.
Yeah, exactly, Israel. For example, our security layer with IAM roles, which means integrity.
Access management. I think,
exactly.
Yeah.
So with IAM roles and network firewalls, policy must be invoked before data can be retrieved or stored, ensuring compliance and protection.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of those governance stuff, right?
Yeah. And I see operation tools, scalability, disaster recovery, and external integrations highlighted on the right. Kenan, what's the thought process there?
Okay, so those ones are our fail-safes and scalability enablers. From load balancers ensuring even traffic distribution to disaster recovery backups, they're essential for maintaining resilience and performance.
So HBK, before you step in, let me tell you something. You know, I'm just adding on what Kenan just said. Our external integrations are so crucial, and especially for payments and third-party services, which is why they are the final step in our sequence.
Yeah.
It all ties back into providing a seamless end-to-end service.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And each time you speak about disaster recovery, I always remember Prof. Antonio for cybersecurity, DR all the time, and understand why it is important, right? When it does why the chocolates. Yeah, so it's clear that this sequence diagram is it's more than just a picture. It tells a story. It shows how the data that we have on the data architecture is actually managed and travels the whole technology architecture. Thank you so much, guys, and thank you so much, sir, for listening to our podcast. You know the podcast, right? It's what's the name of the podcast? It's
Mobility.
We talk about everything that matters. Now this time it was mobility that mattered, and we
Are we going out? Is what?
Pardon?
Are we going out?
Yeah. No, exactly, guys. Sorry, guys. It's fine. We'll just close up the podcast with the podcast. Thank you so much for coming, and we'll see you in the next one.
Next one, guys. Sure.
Cheers.
Yes.
Like, comment, subscribe.
I couldn't say it.
It is famous.
Yes, I forgot the beginning.
No, but that part we can.
Yeah, we could just put that. Yeah.
Yeah.
From the first one.